I am a jovial collier lad, as blithe can be. And let the times be good or bad, it's all the same to me. It's little of the world I know, and care less for its ways. For where the dark star never glows, I'll wear away my days. Down in the coal mine, underneath the ground, where a gleam of sunshine never can be found. It's digging up the dusky diamonds all the season round. Deep down in the coal mine, underneath the ground. Me hands are hoary, hard and black through working in the vein. And like the clothes upon me back, me speech is rough and plain. But if I stumble with me tongue, I've one excuse to say. It's not the collier's heart that's wrong, it's the head that's gone astray. Down in the coal mine, underneath the ground, where a gleam of sunshine never can be found. It's digging out the dusky diamonds all the season round. Deep down in the coal mine, underneath the ground.
The mine itself was started in 1908 by the Pilkington family, who hit problems straight away because of the proximity to the two peat bogs the other side of the canal, Astley Moss and Chat Moss, which caused a lot of water to enter into the shafts as they were dug. Fortunately, the Pilkington family found out about a team of German engineers who developed a system called drop shaft, which was basically building a tube as they went down the shaft to hold back the water. The Pilkingtons had previously considered freezing the ground, but this was totally uneconomic. After the technique by the Germans had been developed, and this was the first colliery in Britain to adopt it, and the mine was completed in 1912. The Pilkington family stayed with it until the 1930s, when Manchester Collieries took over. The mine then stayed open until 1970, having had a 9-month reprieve to see whether it could become and stay economic. This was found not to be feasible, and the mine closed in April 1970. After that, it stayed in dereliction until we came in the 1980s, and slowly but surely as a society we have tried to make it into a working museum. Behind me is one of the last remaining lattice style of headgear left in the country. It was built here by Head and Wrightson from Stockton-on-Tees and came in pieces and hot riveted together by a team of engineers. We have an interesting photograph in the museum collection of the actual people who built it with no safety apparatus, just standing on the top girders, which would give health and safety something to worry about. We're now in the winding engine house of number 1 shaft, and around about me is one of the biggest steam winding engines left in this country, probably Europe as well. It's a twin tandem compound engine, meaning that it's a twin. Depending on the viewpoint, it's either a twin because it's twin sisters either side of us, or a twin because it's got twin cylinders. It's got a high pressure cylinder and a low pressure cylinder replicated on both sides. It develops 3,300 horsepower and could bring 8 tonnes of coal to the surface from half a mile deep every 2 minutes. It was made by Yates and Tom at Blackburn, and we have the maker's plate on the back wall for 1912. It was obviously rather a large engine for a newly developed mine, but I think the Pilkingtons had the ideas that the mine would be developed and would need the capacity to bring more coal to the surface. We're now by the side of the drum with the winding engine, and as you can see it's hollow. There's over 100 tonnes of steel here. The black columns are the brakes, which squeeze like a push-bike brake onto the rim of the drum. And we can now see the second slot in the wall, which was used for the second rope, the first roper post going through the one higher up the wall. But it's quite a hefty piece of machinery, and personally I think it would be very difficult to find a foundry in Britain now that could actually cast a drum of this size. And there's still marks on it from the actual castings in the past. The crane behind me is not one of the actual ones that was used down on the canal bank, but it's typical of the type. There were 2 on the canal bank loading the coal boxes full of coal from the colliery into box boats, as they were known, which were canal barges, one a motorboat and one a dumb barge or a butty boat, and they were loaded 2 abreast and taken to the power stations in Salford and Manchester. It was an early form of containerisation, and the amusing thing is that modern day container ships are also known as box boats. The crane itself would run along tracks parallel to the canal bank. Once the barges got to Manchester or Salford, then the boxes would be lifted out onto a conveyor belt. The bottom would be opened and the coal would fall down and into the furnaces on the conveyor belt for the power stations. The idea is now to get a lottery grant to conserve the headgear, not as a functional piece of equipment, but as a reminder of activities that went on in mining days.